Hello. Uh-oh. You're gonna shank him. You're gonna shank him, Angus. You can get him. Ah! God damn it, I have to do this again, don't I? Anyway, welcome to another episode of Critiquing the Critics, and today's subject, Iron Liz. Iron Liz was primarily known as Linkara's girlfriend. She had a controversial splash on the web when she hosted an episode of Atop the Fourth Wall, which was a ridiculous idea in every sense of the number. But she did eventually find her own identity by creating a web show that was incredibly different. I have to admit, I tackled the works of Iron Liz with some hesitation for a few reasons. The first being she hasn't updated in quite some time. I heard that she was supposed to return in 2013, but that ended up being about as credible as me saying that I would have an episode up in a week. 2 months ago. And to make things worse, I can't say I was enjoying her reviews. That's nothing new, but I was worried that if I gave her a negative review, I would be doing so for the wrong reasons, which is a new feeling. Even if I wasn't really a fan, she didn't fit my definition of a bad or even mediocre reviewer. A major reason it has taken me so long to produce this video is I spent countless hours pondering how to approach this review. So I pondered and pondered by, messing around with my cat, playing the Wii, and, Kleenex and hand lotion. I do not like where this is going. Let's please cut away. Please, God, now. Hey, we all ponder differently. So what is Pen and Paper Corner? It is a review show covering tabletop RPGs. Hey, that's new, and everyone knows that I am an expert on tabletop RPGs. Or at least I know how to spell tabletop RPGs, which I presume makes me an expert. Okay, I'm being told that knowing how to spell tabletop RPGs does not make me an expert. And based on the red underlining under the words tabletop RPGs, I might not know how to spell it either. So yeah, I've never played any of these kinds of games in my life. That is really going to affect my overall opinion, which is reason pound 2 for my hesitation. I've at least played video games, so don't feel lost whenever I review a game reviewer. But tabletop RPGs, no. But let's bring up the reviewer Triforce so I could use big fancy words, speak, and pass that off as legitimate criticism. God, it's exciting to be back. She prioritizes information over anything, and holy hell, there is a lot of information. She breaks down her reviews by discussing game mechanics, character creation, content, and game mastering. Using these 4 tentpoles, she goes very deep into the tabletop RPGs, and really that's all I could say about that. Not since I've started critiquing the critics have I ever felt so lost. It's strange because she goes into everything with such detail that you'd think I'd become an expert, but maybe it's because I've never had any experience with tabletop RPGs, but I could never really figure out whether or not I'd like the game based on her critique of it. Am I being fair if I'm obviously not part of the target audience? It can be argued either way, but I've always preferred reviewers who appeal to hardcore and casual fans while also being able to entertain and intrigue virgins of the subject. I've expressed disdain towards reviews which are comprised of mostly explaining the subject rather than, actually reviewing it, but it's kind of justified here as she reviews it by explaining it.
There are stats for everything. Pick a concept, pick an animal, use their template, choose animal skills, then add their skills. If they use technology or magic, ugh. Ironically, this module is harder on the gamers than it is for the GM. The rules for magic and technology are similar to many other games, but first you have to adapt them to an animal and then mess around with scale if you're an ant versus a badger. And yes, your strength can be wildly different based on your size. And again, this can affect your abilities. This seems like a strange concept considering how it's my guess that this module is targeted more towards younger audiences.
I think the information is good, therefore I'll go ahead and give her a positive arrow. So it comes down to you whether my words in this area are worth a damn or not. Now let's move on to her delivery. This is where somebody pees in the water. Iron Liz is not the best performer, and her earlier works are incredibly difficult to watch for that reason. She has so many awkward pauses, a slow-paced line reading, and seems to lack any passion or enthusiasm, and her acting is as wooden as my desk, which is made of wood. That joke was amazing. Her delivery was just stiff, like she's over-enunciating her words to the point where every line came across as forced. A flaw I am quite intimate with myself and can concur that it is not a very good lover. I'm not sure what that means either. But she has improved. She's reduced the awkward pauses, has sped up her line reading, and has injected a shot of energy into her delivery. Just compare these two clips.
You don't need a pile of dice to play, and most actions can be summed up with the result of 2 dice, rolled with some positive or negative modifiers. Compare that to the oftentimes complex system of Dungeons & Dragons, and you've got a very streamlined method that keeps the game moving. Since combat isn't as a large factor, it lets the characters roleplay a bit more without getting bogged down.
Combat itself is just like the skill checks, in that if you can roll a 9 or greater with your bonuses, you succeed in hitting your target. Most difficulties that arise in combat are due to poor firing conditions like extreme range or lighting, but also that your undead opponents don't actually take damage unless you hit them in their weak spot.
She now seems interested in what she's saying, which means I could be interested in what she's saying. Sure, everything isn't as fruity as I would like it to be, whatever that means, as she still over-enunciates and her acting isn't very good, but hearing that from me is like taking sensitivity training from Spoonie, which I do. As for her humor, well, usually when I criticize a reviewer's performance, especially when it comes to line reading or acting ability, that often will not reflect well on their comedic skills. But Iron Liz does kind of defy that rule because she is funnier than what I would have expected. Although I won't say she's downright hilarious either. Her excessive use of puns is incredibly corny, but they do kind of make me chuckle.
The dice rolling mechanic is really easy. And it actually reminds me a lot of the success and failure rolls you do in World of Darkness. Veteran and newbie gamers alike will be able to pick up the mechanics with very little difficulty. In fact, you could say it's easy to roll with.
That makes me laugh and groan at the same time. Her adoration of cheesy gags is definitely an acquired taste, but I feel if she has any limitation here, it has less to do with her abilities and more to do with how you feel about the style. To enjoy her sense of humor, I have to be in the right mood, but she does it decently, so, small arrow points up. Oh boy, at long last we have arrived at the technicals. Iron Liz is my favorite editor, only rivaled by Acorn Cinema and Righteous Brian, but surpassing even bigwigs such as AVGN. Every sentence seems to be matched with a different, but fitting visual. She doesn't just coast off of footage that has very little to do with what she's saying, unlike SF Debris. Everything on screen ties in with her voiceover perfectly. This is what I loved about the aforementioned other two great editors, but Iron Liz might surpass them due to an incredibly cool addition. Later videos showcase this awesome animated caricature of her drawn by Phil Bunny? That Phil Bunny? Is it weird that I want to know what that thing tastes like? It even changes its positions based on what she's saying. I love this editing style. I love it so much that I would make sweet love to it, impregnate it, and be taken to court for being delinquent and child support by it. Because that is where Antichrist babies come from. What was I talking about again? I have to even admit that this has inspired me to step up my own editing game, and it should make any video reviewer out there want to spend more time on the post-production aspects of their works as well. Arrow goes up. Now wait. Super arrow goes up. It goes up and around and up again. It's that amazing. Iron Liz might not be a very good performer, but she ended her video reviewing career much better than where she started. She's a gifted writer for the medium and is phenomenal when it comes to the editing. I'm going to rate her 2.5 out of 4 stars, primarily because she's trapped within the confines of her subject. If you don't play tabletop RPGs, I don't see how you could make a real connection to her work. But at least she is different. Her subject, the neutral format of her reviews, her strange sense of humor, and the epic editing really do make her stand out amongst the crowd. And within this sea of interchangeable caustic critics that calls itself video reviewing, that is very important. So if she ever chooses to return to the realm of video reviewing, I'll be curious to see where she goes. If you wish to see her videos, they can be found in the Foundry, her blog. It really needs an index page, so you'll have to go through all of her stuff in order to find Pen and Paper Corner videos, but if you look, you shall find, eventually. Her best video, in my opinion, is her All Flesh Must Be Eaten review, as I think it's her most entertaining, but I might be a little biased. Check out my website, follow me on Twitter, friend me on Facebook, and give me a hug. This episode was dedicated to Fwaller because, no, I have no immediate plans on doing so. Maybe my artistic juices will be stimulated if you purchase stuff from my Amazon listing. Just throwing that out there. Anyway, this is that creepy bald guy, Martial Horror, and I'm here to tell you that those who cannot do, critique. This is really dangerous.